I used to believe I had a normal and happy life, surrounded by wonderful friends and living in a splendid house with a pool. I always thought I had the most incredible parents in the world, but as it turned out, they were concealing some incredibly dark secrets. I wish I could tell you that these secrets involved hidden siblings or mundane financial troubles, but the truth is far more complex. Before I delve into this unsettling tale, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Otherwise, the fate of your favorite celebrity might hang in the balance. Perhaps if someone had subscribed earlier, I might have avoided the predicament I find myself in now. My recollections from my early years are fragmentary at best, with my first coherent memories emerging when I was around 3 or 4 years old. These memories are dominated by a series of frequent relocations. We seemed to change houses every few months, often abruptly, sometimes forcing me to leave in the middle of something. At the time, I perceived this as normal, but in hindsight, it all seems rather peculiar. One particular memory stands out vividly. It was the first birthday party I had ever attended, although I can't recall the name of the friend whose celebration it was. There was cake, colorful balloons, and even a professional face painter present. I was in the midst of having my face painted to resemble a tiger when my parents suddenly picked me up, informing me that we had to leave. I cried inconsolably, but my pleas fell on deaf ears. Without a proper goodbye to the birthday girl, we abruptly departed. My tears flowed so profusely that the paint smeared all over my clothes. Fortunately, the artist had only managed to complete half of my tiger transformation. My dad would always offer the explanation that our frequent moves were a consequence of his job, and I never really questioned it at the time. Nonetheless, my early years were marked by a lack of typical childhood experiences. I didn't attend school for an extended period, and the concept of making friends remained elusive throughout my upbringing. I had grown so accustomed to our frequent relocations that I never bothered to fully unpack my room. Strangely, I harbored no bitterness about this nomadic lifestyle. Whenever my parents cited work as the reason for moving, I unquestioningly accepted their explanations. As I grew older, these impromptu moves became less frequent. After residing in the same place for an entire year, my parents made the momentous decision to purchase a house. It was a dream come true for me, an expansive abode boasting 4 bedrooms, a pool, a trampoline, and it was situated in a neighborhood brimming with kids my age. Arriving at the house just in time to commence middle school, it seemed like the perfect opportunity to forge genuine friendships. Among all the friends I eventually made, my closest companion was Hannah. Hannah and I shared a love for watching YouTube videos together, with a particular fondness for true dramas like My Story Animated. Our lives took a dramatic turn when we stumbled upon a video that left an indelible mark on us. Our cherished channel had uploaded a video recounting the story of a girl who had gone missing over a decade ago. The tale was eerie and tinged with sadness. A 2-year-old had been playing in her backyard when she vanished without a trace. The mother, who had recently lost her husband in a car accident, was left with only her daughter. Then, in the blink of an eye, her child disappeared from her life while playing in the garden. Although authorities had long closed the case, the mother persevered, creating posters and embarking on journeys in an unwavering quest for answers. The video transitioned to a slide, juxtaposing a photograph of the girl when she went missing with a digitally aged image of what she might look like now. Hannah abruptly halted the video. "Natalie, that looks just like you," exclaimed Hannah. I couldn't help but chuckle in response. "Yeah, what are the odds?" I tried to dismiss the uncanny resemblance. "Pretty skinny," she observed, and I had to concede that she was right. The girl in the photograph undeniably bore a striking resemblance to me. For the next few hours, we became engrossed in unraveling the details of this mysterious story. The missing girl's disappearance coincided with my birthday. She shared my exact age, and to top it off, she had the same birthmark as me. When it was time to have dinner with my parents, Hannah and I were unusually quiet. My mother, sensing something was amiss, inquired, "So, girls, what have you been up to all day?" We exchanged glances, unsure of how to proceed. Eventually, I responded with a vague nothing and shrugged it off. When she pressed further, we simply assured her that we were fine. Later, I asked my mother if I could spend the night at Hannah's house under the guise of needing to study. At Hannah's house, we continued our investigation, but all we found were more perplexing pieces of evidence. Unsure of what steps to take next, we turned to Hannah's older brother for advice. Initially skeptical, he eventually looked into the matter and concluded that we needed to take some action. He promised to reach out to some of his friends in law enforcement to gather more information about the missing girl. As months passed, the fervor of our search waned. Perhaps it was because I became deeply engrossed in high school life, or maybe a part of me simply didn't want to acknowledge the possibility of the truth. Ignoring the situation became the easier option. Hannah and I were in the midst of eating lunch one day when a teacher approached me with a message that my parents were here to pick me up for a doctor's appointment. I had no prior knowledge of a doctor's appointment scheduled for that day. Upon reaching my parents' car, it was glaringly evident that something was amiss. As I settled into the back seat, I couldn't help but notice the blankets shrouding various objects and bags packed with what appeared to be hastily gathered belongings. Both of my parents wore solemn expressions, and I couldn't help but comment, "This seems like a lot of stuff to bring to the doctor." My parents exchanged glances before my mother spoke up, explaining that my father's brother had been involved in a grave accident. They emphasized that they didn't want me to hear about it from my teacher, hence the abrupt departure. We were going to travel several states away to take care of my uncle. This revelation left me bewildered. I hadn't even been aware that I had an uncle. Something about the situation felt decidedly off. Instructed to text Hannah about my unexpected absence, I dutifully complied, but my father promptly confiscated my phone. When I questioned why, he offered a rather peculiar explanation, citing concerns about certain electrical signals interfering with my uncle's pacemaker. Consequently, I was told I couldn't use Wi-Fi during our stay with his family. This explanation didn't sit well with me, and I attempted to argue my case by pointing out that hospitals typically provided Wi-Fi. However, my protests were summarily dismissed, with my parents urging me to behave due to their heightened distress. As a result, I reluctantly acquiesced, assuming that our stay would be brief. However, days turned into weeks, and even if I had retained my phone, I doubted it would have been functional where we were located, far removed from any populated areas. My uncle remained bedridden, surrounded by a cacophony of beeping medical devices. My parents diligently left for work each day, leaving me to my own devices in the isolated cabin. The strangeness of the situation became increasingly apparent as I pondered why my parents had pulled me out of school and cut off my contact with everyone I knew. I scoured every corner of the house in search of my cell phone or a computer during their absence, but to my dismay, I couldn't even locate a landline. I felt like a captive in my own home. One day, while exploring the premises, I stumbled upon a hidden door concealed beneath a rug in my parents' bedroom. My heart sank as I entered the secret room and took in its contents. Inside, I found a landline, a PC, a collection of cell phones, and a box brimming with old ID cards. However, the room's strangest aspect was the myriad newspaper clippings meticulously covering the walls. They all pertained to the very kidnapping case Hannah and I had been researching. What unnerved me the most was that the newspaper articles were dated just a few weeks ago, with the headline reading, "New Clues in Missing Persons Case Bring Us One Step Closer to Bringing Missing Girl Home." The photograph accompanying the article wasn't a manipulated image, it was an unmistakable picture of me. Beneath my photograph lay a snapshot of my supposed parents. It suddenly dawned on me that the couple I had known as my mom and dad were, in fact, my abductors. Before I could delve further into the unsettling discoveries, I heard a sudden noise behind me. A voice broke the silence, admonishing me, "You weren't supposed to see this." Before I could discern the speaker's identity, everything went dark. I remained unconscious for an indeterminate amount of time, only to awaken in my bedroom, locked in. I wept and pounded on the door, venting my anger at my captors for deceiving me throughout my life. The constant moves and enigmatic circumstances finally made sense. They hadn't merely stolen me from my birth mother, they had stolen my entire childhood. My captors appeared at the door, seeming genuinely wounded by my bitter words. They attempted to explain that they couldn't conceive a child and were, in fact, close friends of my birth parents. Just before my birth father had met with his fateful accident, he had confided in them about his fears regarding my birth mother. He'd asserted that my birth mother had been exhibiting highly suspicious behavior, and he genuinely feared for our safety. He explained that she was grappling with severe mental illness, making it unsafe for me to remain with her. On the day he had intended to serve her with divorce papers and take me away, he had mysteriously suffered an accident, leaving us with no alternative, as the woman I had believed to be my mother recounted. She emphasized that they had made a solemn promise to my biological father to safeguard me at any cost. My birth mother was deemed a dangerous individual with significant connections within the police force. Her entire family consisted of law enforcement officers. They were convinced that pursuing a court case against her would only endanger my well-being, potentially pushing her to harm me. Thus, they had resorted to kidnapping me and willingly forsaking their own lives to provide me with the closest semblance of a normal childhood. Though they had vowed to be more forthcoming with me, some secrets had been withheld to ensure my safety. Suddenly, everything fell into place, and I found myself overcome with tears, pledging to comply with their wishes to preserve our fragile family unit. Over the ensuing months, I grew accustomed to our secluded existence. I altered my appearance by cutting my hair and adopting a different name. Nonetheless, I endeavored to retain certain aspects of my former self. Despite my parents' explicit instructions not to contact Hannah, I surreptitiously followed her popular Instagram and YouTube channels. She had amassed a substantial following, and her content was captivating. One day, I mustered the courage to reach out to her, employing a pseudonym to mask my identity. It felt impossible not to engage with my closest friend. To Hannah, I appeared as a stranger, offering compliments on her latest video. Initially, I had expected her to disregard my messages, but eventually we rekindled our connection, reminiscing about the good old days. Gradually, my guard waned, and I forgot the prohibition against contacting her. In her recent post about a soda drinking challenge, I impulsively commented, asking if she remembered the time I accidentally spilled grape soda all over my white dress in the cafeteria. She promptly responded, "OMG, I knew it was you. Where have you been?" It's been years. The excitement of reconnecting with Hannah overwhelmed me. She even suggested that she could alert the police to our reunion. Panic coursed through me as I realized my blunder. While I was saddened by the prospect of losing Hannah once more, I swiftly deleted all my social media accounts, keeping this episode a secret from my parents to avoid losing my internet privileges again. However, this decision proved unwise as a few days later, a knock on my door heralded the arrival of the police. Who could have predicted that recalling my cafeteria mishap would lead to a SWAT team descending upon my home? Hannah had promptly contacted the authorities, who traced my IP address. Handcuffs restrained my parents, while my birth mother rushed to my side, enveloping me in a tight embrace. I was in a state of hysteria. People kept asking if I was physically harmed, but my distress stemmed from the impending separation from my parents. My birth mother's initial anger at my kidnappers quickly morphed into fear as they retorted that her husband had never truly perished. His purported demise had been a ruse intended to deceive everyone. When the police inquired further, she urged them to investigate the second bedroom at the rear of the house, my uncle's room. Attempting to flee, my biological mother was promptly apprehended by the officers. The truth emerged that my supposedly deceased uncle had, in fact, been my father all along. After he had requested divorce papers from my birth mother, she had orchestrated his apparent death. However, my abductors had secretly rescued him, arranging for his care for many years. Their decision to unite us all under one roof and divulge my true origins was intended to occur when I reached an appropriate age. In their eyes, my father had been a remarkable man, their dearest friend. Whether their actions were justifiable or not, my parents were arrested on the spot for the crime of kidnapping. The revelation of my biological father, previously presumed dead, led to my biological mother being detained for questioning and subsequently charged with attempted murder. When the police inquired about my living arrangements, I opted to reach out to Hannah. She welcomed me with open arms, relieved to see me once more. Much had changed, yet we managed to rekindle our friendship as if no time had passed. We even embarked on an independent documentary project about my life and attended film school together. I still visited my incarcerated parents and my ailing biological father at the hospital, though his condition showed no improvement. I encountered my birth mother on a few occasions since the tumultuous events unfolded, but I remained uncertain whether a meaningful relationship could ever be rekindled between us.